everyone, welcome back to the podcast at FPA. Today we have somebody very special with us. This is someone who has taught me everything in finance, and he is really a mentor, and I'm sure you already know him. His name is Mr. Kirtan Shah, and he is the founder of Credence Wealth and the co-founder and CEO at FPA Edutech. So I'm going to ask him to please enlighten us with his journey of 15 years in the financial planning industry.
Yukti, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. Yukti, I've been around in the financial services space for the last 15 years. I think the journey started when, so I used to work for a call center when I was graduating.
Right.
And when I got my first salary, we had a financial planner back then.
Okay.
And my dad told me that now that you've got your first salary, you are not going to do anything with this money. Why don't you start an SIP? Being from a Gujarati family, investing is a part of what we do every day, right? So it was nothing new for me. I mean, stocks and discussion about the markets is something that kept happening at the home almost every day. But it was that time when, while I was graduating, I didn't know what to do post that. Our financial planner told me that he was doing this certification called CFP, which anybody who's just 12th pass could do. And because of my interest in finance and had nothing else to do in life because I was just working at the call center, and graduation exams very honestly were not very difficult to clear. So I decided to join the certification there. It was then and it is today. We run FPA. The core of FPA is teaching investing and financial planning. We employ 120 people across 7 locations. And on the Credence Wealth side of the business, we have a team of 64 people spread across 4 offices. We manage close to 13,000 crore worth of assets. Of course, the journey has not been easy, but I would definitely give a lot of credit to that interaction of doing the CFP certification that led me to where I think I am today.
Wow, that's great. I am sure there are a lot of people who consider you as a role model. And hence, my next question is that what do you think? How is the financial planning industry looking after a few years down the line, 5-10 years down the line?
I'm just glad if there is at least one person who thinks that I've achieved something and would want to be where I am. But very honestly, I think things came my way quite naturally. And the reason I say this is because over a period of time that I started participating in the capital markets versus today, markets have just been better and best than it could ever have been, right? You just look at COVID as a situation and you will understand that there is a plethora of new investors who actually came to the market post-COVID. Today also that you and I are talking, in the month of October of 2024, FIIs have sold roughly 1 lakh crore worth of their holdings in just a month. And DIIs at the same time have bought 1 lakh crore worth of assets. This is only possible because there is a huge retail audience who's today doing a lot of SIPs, investing at every fall. I think India is in the cult place for equities at this point in time. There are 2-3 things that I really want to highlight if at all you are asking me about how the future of this industry looks to me. See, today that you and I are talking and the markets are not falling in spite of a 1 lakh crore worth of sell figure from the FIIs, like I said, is all thanks to the retail investors participating in the capital markets using mutual funds, right? Still, only 4% of India invests.
Yes.
4% of India invests, and you are able to challenge 1 lakh crore of FII sell number with 1 lakh crore of DII buy number. Imagine what will happen if 10% of India starts investing. By the way, 47% of population in the US invests in the capital market. We are at 4%. So the journey in India from 4% to 47% is going to be a huge opportunity in this space, in my opinion.
Okay.
because if there are 4% investors who are currently investing in India, which is roughly 3.5-4 crore people, right? There are hardly 2,500 financial planners in the entire country.
Right.
Imagine if 10% of India starts investing, which is roughly 14 crore people. You cannot survive with the number of financial planners that are available in the industry. And which is why I am definitely convinced that at least for the next 10 years to 20 years, till the time India becomes a much more matured market like the Western markets are, there is a huge scope for people like you and me to enter this industry and create a name for themselves. You will, in my opinion, not get an industry like this where you probably acquire a client today and get paid for 30 years every year, right, till that time the client is with you. I mean, in India, I keep telling people that the most respected certification of sorts is the CA certification. And even as a CA today, that you and I are talking, in 500 rupees you can file the returns,
yes,
right?
Yes.
And you are not sure if this client will come back to you the next year and pay you 500 rupees to file your tax returns. If this is the case with the most respected and sought after certification in India versus, let's say, financial planning or CFP kind of a certification in industry in which you acquire a client once and you get paid for 30 years. If I can give you a math, 10,000 rupee of SIP done by somebody for 30 years, as a financial planner, you can make 32 lakh rupees of commission income on that one investment, right?
Yeah.
So this industry is here to stay. This industry, in my opinion, is going to grow at a very, very, very fast pace. Is because the pace at which the number of people are becoming newer investors in the capital market, you don't have enough supply of financial planners, and hence this gap is huge for students who are interested in participating to fill this up.
Great. But on contrary, now there is definitely a very huge potential for anybody who wants to enter, because very less number of people are investing right now. But since after COVID, people have started gaining some knowledge through a lot of DIY apps as well. Then can you just highlight a little bit to the audience that what is the difference that between having an advisor versus just using the DIY and doing the investments by themselves?
I think this is a very important question, and I'll tell you why. Because I'm in this industry and I kind of meet clients and investors on a daily basis. I can tell you one thing with my little 15 years of work experience is that returns in the markets are not generated because you are intelligent. Returns in the markets are generated because you are disciplined. Yeah. And I keep telling this to people that if you are disciplined, you will be able to beat 90% of the most intellectual people on the street. In the world of investing, you don't really need to be technically very smart. All you need is the patience to stay invested for 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, 20 years. Because if you're not disciplined, at every fall, you might want to redeem your money, right? And you will miss out on compounding. So I was just looking at some data today. Between 2003 to 2007, which has been the biggest bull market in India, right? Where the markets went up 214% in a period of 5 years. Every year, the market fell 15 to 20% from intra-year highs. Okay. Which means even in the best of the biggest of the bull markets in India, markets every year fell 20% intra-year. Okay. Now, if you don't have the discipline to stay invested, how are you going to create wealth? Okay. So let's say in 2003, when the markets, in spite of generating 38-39%, but intra-year fell 14% and you got scared, you would have not been able to make the remaining 180% over the next 4 years.
Right.
So this market is for people who can stay disciplined and are not very intelligent. Okay. Now you've got to ask yourself, are you disciplined? And 9 out of 10 times the answer is no. Because you look at the SIP numbers that come from AMFI month after month, you will understand that more than 50% of the DIY investors don't stay invested for more than 3 years. and 90% of these investors don't stay invested for more than 5 years. So if you are a DIY investor but you are not disciplined, how are you going to be able to create wealth over a period of time? Now I'm not saying that DIY is bad, DIY is brilliant, provided you know for a fact that you are a disciplined investor, right? But for everybody else, which I think is 90% of India today needs help, right? Is because most of us don't know why do we invest, where do we invest, how do we align our investments to goals, how do we stay disciplined, how do we save tax, how do we make a will, how much insurance do we need, how much mediclaim do we need. There are so many of these questions, unfortunately, are not taught to us in our school days.
Correct.
And hence I think 90% of India today needs hand holding, which is in my opinion the right word to use here. Needs hand holding in their journey so that they are able to reach their goals. Look, India is not a country where you have social security like in the US. So what happens in the US is once you've retired, government pays you a pension, government takes care of your medical facility. Does not happen in India. So imagine if you don't start investing, right, early, or you've not got the right advice in terms of investment, your retirement will not be taken care of.
Correct.
That's a big aching problem in India, in my opinion, today, because I end up meeting so many investors today who are in their 50s. Lately have understood the power of compounding and wanting to invest, but they think they've lost the time because they're too late. And now, because of the lifestyle that they've maintained so far, they understand that they now only have 10-12 years to accumulate enough money that can survive another 20-25 years after their retirement. So I think there is enough and more reason for investors, specifically in India, who need hand holding, where the advisor community or the financial planner community definitely plays a very significant role.
Okay, I think that's very well answered. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
On a personal note, is there a reason why did you start an education section where you were already doing your financial planning bit?
There definitely is a big reason. There are actually two reasons. First, while I was studying the CFP certification, it was very different from what my graduation was. So I have graduated in the field of science, right?
Right.
So for me, this was slightly new, but I understood I had a better hand over most other people doing this certification because I was very good with math. Not that the math is complicated, but I am easy with numbers, right? But there were a lot of aspects that I understood that my student colleagues were able to grasp much faster than I could, because they could relate to the commerce learning that they had, or probably they were from the industry and they had practical exposure and understanding around a couple of areas of discussion. Is where I realized that while the education is so good, so new in India, right, how do I make sure that I remember it outside of the class? Because the biggest problem is that if what you've learned is only learned to clear the exam, it is not going to help you beyond the exam.
True.
For you really to be able to use it in the real world and make the most of it for yourself and your clientele, you need to refresh this again and again, right? Is where somebody told me that the best way to do this is train people.
Okay.
And because I was so engrossed in this entire certification and the learnings I got, I thought the best way to retain it for myself and to be able to help others in the industry is to start talking about it and teaching it. That was actually the seed to start FPA, where we've done financial planning trainings and CFP all the way since the first day, right? So I think it was my personal need of wanting to stay updated with whatever I learned in the certification that led to me then wanting to spread. So it was my personal need first and then trying to help somebody else.
Okay. So that's great, and I'm sure that has helped a lot of people in the industry, including me. My next question is a little bit towards earning of professionals. since you've taught so many, I'm sure they would be doing very good at a very good level.
I'm hoping
But
so.
can you, but can you highlight on how would they or you, basically, how does a financial advisor earn money?
Look, so very honestly, when I started doing the CFP certification, I didn't really know how big this business really is, right? Is because back then, the only kind of people that you will end up meeting and no hard feelings for anybody is LIC agents, right?
Okay.
Every family would have one LIC agent, and every investment was in insurance.
Correct.
And I could never visualize how big this profession can really be till the time I started the wealth side of the business and experienced it myself. Now I'm going to give you some numbers. These numbers are mind-boggling. Okay. So the first point that you have to understand is that you can in this space earn in two ways.
Okay.
Either you are a SEBI registered RIA or you are a distributor.
Right.
Who's a SEBI registered RIA? A SEBI registered RIA is somebody who largely can only make money out of charging you a fee. So let's say you want to invest 1 crore, you come to me and I am a SEBI registered RIA. I will tell you that my fee is 1,25,000. You pay me that fee, and I will tell you where to invest this 1 crore, keeping in mind all your requirements. That's one way.
But investment will be done by the client themselves.
Correct. So the investment won't happen through me. The investment, you are free to do that investment with anybody under the direct model. Right?
Yeah.
Then there is another business, which is the distribution side of the business, which is much larger than the direct side of the business, which is regular. What is regular? Regular is a model in which you come to me and you tell me you want to invest 1 crore. I don't charge you a fee, but you have to invest through me. And when you invest through me, the manufacturer, the mutual fund or the PMS guy,
right,
in whose fund we got you to invest is what pays me. So in the regular model, I get paid from the fund. In the RIA model, I get paid from the client. Now, very honestly, theoretically, you can definitely believe that if I am getting paid from the client, I will think of you. And as a distributor, if I am getting paid from the AMC, I will think of the AMC.
Yeah.
Look, there are spoiled rats and rotten apples in both sides of the businesses, right?
Yes.
But talking about somebody who's genuine in this business, we'll always think of the client, right? But there is far more money to be made on the distribution side of the business than on the fee side of the business. Because in India, the mindset is I want everything free or cheap.
Correct.
Right? So if you tell somebody that I'm going to charge you 1,25,000 rupees fee, it is not difficult. It is not very easy to convince somebody to pay you a 1,25,000 rupee fee.
Very true.
And even if somebody's paid you 1,25,000 fee in the first year, to get that person to pay you fee in the second year or the third year is only going to become more challenging, right? Is because that individual is going to evaluate how much work you've done in the first year to pay you the second year fee, right? And for you to show to the client that you are doing something, you will unnecessarily have to do a lot of churning here and there just to make your presence felt, which may be counterproductive for the client.
Correct.
The easier and the larger business is actually the distribution side of the business.
Okay.
Right? The biggest advantage of the distribution side of the business is that once I acquire a client, I get paid continuously till the client is with me. And I gave you an example in the last question that we were doing, that a 10,000 rupee SIP for 35 years will make me a 32 lakh rupee of revenue. Of course, over 35 years and not immediately.
Yeah.
Because what happens is, let's say I get paid 1% of 10,000 rupees that you invest.
Okay.
Right? So in the first year you've invested 1,20,000 rupees, I get paid 1% of it, which is peanuts, 120 rupees.
Right.
But in the second year, you invest another 1,20,000. So now your total is 2,40,000 plus the returns that you made on 2,40,000.
Right.
Now I get paid 1% on 240 plus the returns that you made. Now if you keep compounding this, right, a small 10,000 rupee SIP can make you a 32 lakh of income over 35 years.
That's
imagine if you've been able to convince 100 clients to come and start an SIP with you. The amount of money that you can really make in this business is unparalleled. I know of people who are just 12th pass uh, and have no professional certification in this business, been around for a long time, managing 200, 300 crore worth of wealth for clients. They make monies equivalent to or more than CEOs of listed companies. Right?
amazing.
So this is a brilliant business to be in. Not just business. Imagine if this is the kind of revenue that anybody in this business makes, right? When you get employed with them, let's say you get employed with a bank, and bank is also in the same business or distribution, right? Or you get employed with a stockbroking firm
Or a wealth management.
or a wealth management firm. The reason why they are able to pay you such fat salaries and incentives is because the revenue that they make is way too high.
Correct.
Right? Now, of course, like I said, there are good and bad people on both sides, right? You will definitely come across people who will try and sell you products where they make more money, right? And that's a negative here. But there are bad people everywhere. But just because you have bad people, you cannot paint the entire industry as bad, right? So you've got to choose where you really want to be. The more easier thing is to be on the distribution side of the business than being on the fee side of the side.
The fee side. So based on this, there are a lot of students who have, not only students, in fact, almost everybody who has a myth that being an advisor is kind of only being a salesperson. So what is your take on that, and how can you try and remove that myth from people?
Yukti, I think that's a very interesting question, and I'm going to tell you something. So the first job I got after doing my CFP certification, of course I didn't take it up, and I will not name the company, was a stockbroking firm where I got to join as a relationship manager. And this is exactly the first question I asked myself. After studying so much and clearing these exams, why do I sell? It may be in the hindsight, but today, 15 years after I've done this, I'm telling you with my hand on heart, you cannot do anything in life if you can't sell.
Correct.
Right? In any organization that you want to be a part of, would you love you getting promoted?
Absolutely.
Right? So imagine if you are an individual, you are expected to do the numbers that you are expected to do. But when you get promoted, which is what you want, now you are expected to do numbers of 20 people who are reporting into you.
Right.
So that's your new target.
Yes.
That's your new target.
Yes.
When you get even more promoted, right, which you want and you are happy to, now you have to make sure that 100 people are doing their targets. So please understand that in life, in general, if you want to grow, right, you will have to sell at every position.
Correct.
And every position that you grow, your targets only increase. Most people that I meet and our students, they think CEO क्या काम करता है, ऑफिस में बैठ के टाइम पास तो करता है. Understand that the CEO is responsible for the sales number of hundreds of people that are there in the organization. So higher you climb the ladder which you want to, the more you will have to sell.
Right.
I'll give you an example. The best job role in our industry is to become a fund manager.
Correct.
Everybody wants to become a fund manager because that's the most sophisticated job that you might have. Now you might think as a fund manager you do research, you buy stocks, you sell stocks. Trust me, as a fund manager also you are selling.
Correct.
Because you have to go to news channels, you have to take distributor calls, you have to make presentations and try and convince the distributors or the investor community that you are a good guy and hence they should give you business.
Correct.
Every fund manager in this business is a salesperson. And they have targets to make sure that the AUM in the fund increases.
Yes.
So trust me, there is nothing in this business, absolutely nothing in this business where you will get into where you are not selling. You want to become the CEO, you sell. You want to become the fund manager, you sell. Everybody sells. Selling is not bad. The problem is that selling, unfortunately, is coined as a bad term in the way we've been born and brought up.
Right.
Right? But if you are making a financial plan for somebody, helping somebody reach their goal, and in that journey, you are telling them that they will have to do these 4 SIPs of 10,000 rupees, that's not selling an IDEX at somebody's doorstep.
Correct.
Right?
I think that is the confusion that people have.
Yeah, so sales here in this business simply means that, let's say you get a job with Motilal Oswal, right? Now you're not expected to go to door to door, ask people whether they want to open accounts with Motilal Oswal or not, right? What your job role is that Motilal Oswal has a set of clients, probably doing share trading. They will map those clients to you. You have to call them saying that I'm calling from Motilal Oswal. You're already trading shares with us, and here's how I can help you invest in mutual fund or a PMS. You are not acquiring a client, they're Motilal Oswal clients.
Right.
All you are trying to tell them is that if you have a requirement for mutual fund or a PMS, here I am, let me help you. Right? So I think my only suggestion to students is get rid of this thought process that you don't want to sell. You will never grow in life if you don't sell. And selling here is not selling a soap or a shampoo, right? You are helping somebody reach their financial goals.
So it's moreover an advisory rather than just doing
Absolutely.
sales. Some time back you said that you were from science background. So why did you not pursue that further and rather come to this direction of finance?
So my age is not hidden in general otherwise, but I'm 1985 born. I completed my schooling in 1999-2000, which was like 24 years back from today. And at that time, there was no aptitude test, right? So you decide whether you want to do science, commerce or arts or anything else which didn't exist at that time.
Right.
Only depending on the score that you got in the 10th standard.
Okay.
So if you've scored well in your 10th standard, you take science. That was the norm.
Right.
If you've scored moderate, you take commerce.
Okay.
And if you are a bad student, then you take arts.
Correct.
Right? This was the norm. There was no logic to why what was taken, and I have done the same thing. I scored well in my 10th standard, I took science. There was no logic to why I took science. Right? But of course, when you grow slightly older is where you understand whether this interests you or not. And I think finance started interesting me because while I was working in the call center, while I was graduating, so we used to do refinancing for a bank called Wells Fargo in the US.
Okay.
Right? So we would call people in the US who already had home loans, they call it mortgages, and we would tell them that your mortgage or your home loan is at 5%, my bank will give you a loan at 4%. So stop that, take our loan. So you will save 1%. Is where I understood and found this very fascinating. And as luck would have, the financial planner told me that CFP is a certification and all fell in place. So that's my journey. Nothing was planned. I'm just lucky and at the right place at the right time.
Wow. Lucky, but of course that step that you took was very important. A lot of people are not able to decide what they want to do in their life at any point in time, be it a student, be it a working professional. You switched a field, but there are a lot of people who are thinking the same thing but are not really able to think that whether they should actually go for it or not, whether they should come to finance or not. So how should a person decide, on what grounds? Is there anything that you can suggest?
I will tell you a very interesting perspective, and I'm not sure if you've heard this by anybody else because I don't remember reading it. This is my personal experience. Unfortunately, in India, people who are more educated are more scared.
Okay.
The more you are educated, you are more concerned of what if this does not work out? What if I lose my job? What if I go to entrepreneurship and it is not how I thought it to be? Right? Very honestly, in my opinion, the more you are educated, the more confident you should be, because you know that if a step that you've taken does not work, you have enough education background to support you to get a new job, right? Imagine somebody who is not educated, right? He should feel scared that if his step goes wrong, he doesn't have anything to fall back on.
Correct.
But unfortunately, in India, educated people are more scared than the uneducated people, right? So my only submission as an answer to your question is that if you've understood that you are interested in something and you are educated, just jump.
Right.
If things don't work well, you are educated enough to get employment.
Yeah,
Right?
fair. I mean, you can go back to that industry again.
All you have to decide is, does it interest you? I think that's the biggest problem that most people are not able to solve. If it interests you, just jump.
Okay, I think that was a very different angle, and I hope a lot of people have got their answers through this. So thank you so much, Kirtan sir, for doing this with me, and I'm sure the audience would have got a lot of great insights, and there have been a lot of podcasts that we've done. But the way you have answered has a very different angle to all the questions. So thank you so much, and all of you all know what you have to do next. So thanks a lot. I'll end on this note.
Thank you so much for having me.